So it looks like Zubimendi is going to be an Arsenal player. Every top journalist is saying that's the case. And even with the Real Madrid PR machine working overtime, it feels like even they've conceded that he is going to be an Arsenal player. And there's nothing Real Madrid can do to change the terms of the deal. So we'll be adding him to the squad alongside Thomas Partey, who will be the starting player, who will be the number 6 that Mikel Arteta goes to more often than not, because Thomas Partey has been offered a new deal by Arsenal. Now, to be fair, it's not signed, sealed and delivered, but what we want to do in this video is look purely at the numbers. You've seen the Goonerverse series before. Shout out to Rio, who gave me, a friend of mine who gave me the idea to call it Goonerverse. We've done it looking at strikers, we've done it looking at Rodrigo and Williams, and now we're going to do it looking at Partey and Zubimendi, because it could well be that Arteta has these two to choose from next season as his number 6 choices alongside Declan Rice, but I think we can all accept he's going to be playing in a more advanced role. So let's go straight into the numbers. But the first thing I want you to know, this all comes from FBref firstly, that the stats are separated, they're per 90 basically. So I'm giving you a number. It's looking at per 90 in in Europe's top 5 leagues. It's looking at midfielders in Europe's top 5 leagues per 90. That's the crucial understanding you need around the numbers. But we're going to start with player profiles first. Partey's 31, Zubimendi's 26, which is actually older than I thought. I mean, honestly, as I was researching it, and I was sort of, thinking, okay, right, let's just double check his age. For a split second, I thought 23, but probably 24. He's 26. I mean, he's entering his prime years. This is not a young player. This is an experienced player who's been playing first team football for a good few years now, and isn't someone who is probably going to be expected to need a lot of bedding in, but more on that a little bit later. Partey stands at 6'1", Zubimendi 5'11". They're both right-footed. Of course, Partey's Ghanaian and Zubimendi Spanish. Thought Zubimendi was class in the Nations League games recently. And you see some of the comps that did the rounds. You could see this is a player who's very, very comfortable on the ball, despite what some of the numbers will say. And I think it's important to always go with the eye test, because with these Goonerverses, I'm just bringing you the numbers. I'm just bringing you the surface level data. I'm not trying to make this a full breakdown. I'm not trying to tell you that these certain numbers prove that one player is better at something than another, because there's so much context. The league they're in, the team they're playing for, the role that they've got. Just because they're both playing as 6s doesn't mean that they necessarily are playing the same role. Sometimes they'll be double pivots, sometimes they're lone 6s, sometimes there's more of a creative burden, sometimes there's more of a defensive burden. All these things are important context, but I think the numbers are still interesting to go through. So let's go into the possession data, starting with Thomas Partey on the left, Zubimendi on the right. Passes completed. This is all from the 24-25 season. Just a reminder, it's taking their data from what they've done in Europe's top 5 leagues. I assume, taking European football into account and all that. Partey at 52.7 passes completed per 90 is higher than Zubimendi's. His pass completion at 87% is higher than Zubimendi's 84% as well. Zubimendi does come out on top for progressive passes at 5.51 to 5.41 of Thomas Partey, but otherwise progressive passes received higher for Thomas Partey. He's also up there for key passes 0.68. He's up there for passes into the final third at 5.24. His carries are higher, his shot creating actions are higher, and his goal creating actions are higher too. Partey pretty much wipes the floor with Zubimendi on a lot of that key data. The only thing there that Zubimendi had was the amount of progressive passes per 90. Otherwise, Thomas Partey, again, with the important context of the team they're playing for, the level that they're playing at, all these things, the makeup of the team, the tactics, all that's important to know, but Partey comes out on top. Let's go through the defensive data. Partey with 2.63 tackles per 90 is better than Zubimendi's 2.15. His tackles in the defensive third go down on Zubimendi's 0.88 to 0.78 though. Tackles in the middle third are higher, and tackles in the attacking third are higher too. But I must say that from a percentile perspective and looking how they compare amongst Europe's midfielders, the tackles in the attacking third were high for both Partey and Zubimendi, clearly a strength of both, and something they're going to need to know. They're going to need to know how to do, because Mikel Arteta does put that trust in his 6 to vacate a really deep position and go and press up the pitch and win the ball high up. Partey, I think, has done that really well this season. So the fact that Zubimendi can do it is a good thing too. Dribblers tackled is higher for Partey at 1.32. The blocks, though, are in favour of Zubimendi at 1.36. He's also higher for interceptions, Zubimendi at 1.31 to 1.15 for Partey. And also on errors per 90, Zubimendi is ranking better, of course, with the lower number, 0.08 to 0.12. So from a defensive perspective, it evens evens out a little bit more there. I would think, on the eye, Partey covers more ground, but again, maybe there's a reading to the game that Zubimendi can do a little bit better. And I think when you're not as physical a player as Thomas Partey, who's taller, who's faster, who's kind of ranger and what he can do, has been a box-to-box before coming to Arsenal, I think you've got to use your intelligence and reading of the game like a Jorginho did so well. And actually, I think Jorginho left Arsenal with questions about his defensive ability kind of eradicated by the fact that his reading of the game was to a real elite standard, to be fair to him. And very, very rarely was he actually caught out defensively in the way we thought he might be in an Arsenal team that press high up the pitch and like to be aggressive. Thomas Partey, I think this season, there have been questions about his defensive position. Does he drop too much into the back line? Does he sit off too much? Can we be run through midfield a little bit too easily? Maybe, but I actually think when he's gone to engage in the tackle, when he has gone into wider areas to try win the ball back, when he's pressed high up the pitch, I think he's done a really good job of that. And actually, especially in the latter part of this last season just gone, I thought Partey was much better defensively than perhaps people gave him credit for. Maybe some of the numbers prove it a little bit. But I also want to show you this passing data, looking at Thomas Partey's last season in La Liga compared to also what he did in this last season just gone now. And the reason I want to show you this is to make the point that the numbers can improve and the coaching and the evolution of a player can make a massive difference. Partey, in his final season at Atletico Madrid, completed 48.41 passes per 90. It's gone up to 52.7. His passes completed at 81.8% is not only down on Zubimendi's 84%, which we covered in the graphic before, but massively down on the 87.2% that he's putting up in his last full campaign with Arsenal. His key passes slightly down from that last season at Atletico to what he's just done for Arsenal, and goal creating actions is down at 0.25. It's gone up since being at Arsenal, and in this last season 0.37. Now again, there's context. The team he played for, the manager he played for in Simeone, which by the way, maybe Simeone and Arteta have more in common than we think. But anyway, maybe that's for another day. But look, I'll be real, these are cherry-picked numbers. There are other numbers that go down from Atletico, his time at Atletico to his time at Arsenal. And there's also data that in his final season at Atletico is actually still better than Zubimendi in his final season at Real Sociedad. So you can cherry pick the data a little bit. The point I really wanted to make here is that those numbers can go up. They really, really can. And that's important to remember with Zubimendi. Thomas Partey arrived as a box-to-box midfielder who covered the pitch, who could cover it right back a little bit for Atletico Madrid as well. And Arteta evolved him into a number 6 that I think people, when we signed Partey, were thinking we're finally getting that midfield destroyer who, yes, is good on the ball, but is going to cover ground and is basically almost going to be more similar to what Declan Rice is doing now and kind of give us that presence. And that, people said we're finally replacing Vieira by getting Thomas Partey. Partey's not been anything like that. He's been much closer to a Fernandinho, Rodri type 6, sitting at the base, getting on the ball and distributing and running the game and keeping things ticking. Zubimendi is going to be more that kind of 6. But it's important to remember that Arteta took the raw ingredients of Thomas Partey, who was a different type of midfielder, and turned him into a 6 that others, maybe I was at one point, that others were certainly calling world class at one point. So with Zubimendi, he can hopefully evolve even more of that part of his game. But when you see what he's been doing for Spain recently, Zubimendi, in those recent games I think a lot of Arsenal fans tune into, you go, no, this might already be someone who's incredibly refined, and we shouldn't worry too much about the data. But we are going to cover that in more detail with Ben Mattinson, because this is someone who, in the 2 podcasts we've done, Transfers Explained, everyone at the end of this video, you'll be able to follow the podcast on Spotify, so go check that out in the end card and go check out the video that's out on the channel now. But Ben Mattinson, who does brilliant breakdowns on players, who watches these players in great detail, we're definitely going to go into the nitty-gritty about Zubimendi and understanding exactly what his strengths and weaknesses are and see how that actually compares to the numbers that perhaps don't come across as exciting as perhaps we expected them to. The only final thing I want to touch on is availability. This is something that favours heavily for Zubimendi. Last season, Thomas Partey, as you can see, we've got injuries on the left and games missed. Partey had 1 injury, missed 1 game. Zubimendi didn't miss any football whatsoever. But the season before that, with just 2 injuries, Thomas Partey missed 34 games. Zubimendi with 2 injuries missed 7. The season before that, the 1 injury for Zubimendi, but he didn't miss any football. In fact, in the 3 seasons before that, he only missed 3 games in 3 in 3 whole seasons from 2020 to 2023, he only missed 3 games. Thomas Partey, as you can see, 6 games missed, 19 games missed, and 21 games missed. So having a really dependable number 6 Arteta's going to trust, Arteta's going to want to play, is going to be crucial, because with Partey, fair play to him, the availability has been really good in this last campaign, but history tells us that we can't massively rely on that. So let's see if that plays a part in how much football Zubimendi plays. Could they play together? Could Zubimendi be a left 8 getting higher up the pitch a little bit? Could they be a double pivot so Lewis Skelly can invert but move higher up the pitch? Could Declan Rice maybe get a little bit of a rest? Could Partey start at right back and invert into midfield, and then you've got Partey and Zubimendi and build up together? I think we might see all these things at one point next season. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Zubimendi, Partey, are they going to play together? Who's going to be the starting 6 for Arsenal? Who do you think is the better player today? I'd love to know. And of course, on Transfers Explained, we will talk about Zubimendi in more detail from an eye test perspective and not so much the numbers perspective. But I hope you enjoyed this video. Go check out Transfers Explained, and I'll catch you all in a bit.